Hello, tinsel lovers everywhere, and welcome to the Microlive Christmas show. Not, as you may have just heard, the last of the series, but just the last before our Christmas break. Later on, Santa Coll, hello there, John, will be suggesting good presents for computer buffs.
We've got the results of the Microlive and Listener magazine data encryption competition.
And I'll be talking to Daily Mail journalist Lesley about the wonder of the word processor.
You may remember that 4 weeks ago on the programme we were discussing the new amendment to the Copyright Act that's intended to clarify the law regarding the copying of software, and we invited letters on the subject. Many of our younger correspondents felt that just the price of game software led to the law being flouted. But young children who are caught copying software are risking more than they think. Not only would their parents be liable to pay any fines, but as barrister Emlyn Williams points out,
the penalties now available against them seem to be excessive, for there can, and indeed will, be cases where copying in contravention of the new provision may ground an order putting a child into the care of a local authority.
There were complaints too about some of the methods the companies use to protect their software. Firebird's Elite, for example, uses a system called lens lock. When you buy the game, you get this plastic lens. Every time you run it, the program generates a pair of random numbers that appear jumbled on the screen. The lens lets you read them, type them in, and then the game runs. But Gary Nicklin of Essex isn't impressed.
Elite is probably the best game I've got at the moment for the Spectrum, but my enjoyment is totally spoiled by the fact that I have to pray for a lens lock number that is recognisable through the lens. Several times now I have been unable to recognise any of the codes, and this means loading in the whole game again, and it takes ages.
Strong feelings were also aroused by the difficulty of transferring cassette-based software to disc. Dave Keane of London writes,
there must be many, like myself, who simply refuse to buy software on tape if it is likely to be too well protected to be transferred onto disc. Why, oh why, do companies not make at least all their new software available on disc?
A good point, Mr. Keane, and thanks to all of those who wrote in. Now here's Lesley.
A word processor, well, I think so anyway, is the most useful piece of software that you can use on a micro. To be honest, it was the only reason I allowed a computer across the threshold in the first place. It was great for writing scripts, especially for someone like me who is very indecisive and a total non-typist. But I would have thought that a word processor would be essential for someone who writes full-time for a living, like journalist Lesley. Anne, you've been writing for the Daily Mail and for different publications throughout your career. But when did you first use a word processor?
Well, about 18 months ago. I'm tremendously perfectionist about my copy. I like to give in neat copy, not full of deletions and insertions and things like that. And I'd heard this wild rumour that there was a magical machine that did all this sort of thing for you, called a word processor. But knowing nothing about computers or word processors, I then set out to teach myself, and it was a pretty murderous lesson, I must say, to begin with. But then suddenly, breakthrough, and I'm now a born-again computer freak, boring my friends about how it's changed my life.
Well, you've ended up with a BBC B and a Tandy for when you're out on the road. How on earth did you decide what system, what machines you wanted?
Well, I made a list of what I wanted from a word processor. I obviously didn't want to send 400 form letters to earth-moving equipment manufacturers. And I think the best way of telling you what I wanted is what I got, which is this. Now, I happen to have in here a bit of a file of a story I sent from the Geneva Summit. Now, for example, say I didn't like paragraph 2. I thought really it belongs somewhere else. So here we go, and you will note that I'm not the greatest typist in the world, but it doesn't terribly matter when you've got a word processor. Now I'm going to move it and make it number 1. No, don't like it there, so I'll change it. In fact, I hate that sentence altogether. I shall now delete it. You see? Wonderful,
But
magic.
you're experimenting, aren't you? Completely.
Well, you can try out ideas. You can try out various things that you want to, which you wouldn't do if you were going to have to type the whole thing again.
Yeah.
The other thing that's terribly important for a journalist is to know how many words you've been dribbling on for. So this is what happens. You go like that, count. That happens to be 218 words, which is wonderful. And then also what tends to happen sometimes is you've had a brainstorm and you have misnamed people throughout the piece, and if it's something like 5,000 words to retype with a deadline, you are hysterical. Now, I happen to know in this piece the words Kennedy and Khrushchev come in. So let's say that I made a mistake. The names of those two superpower leaders were quite different. So change Kennedy, should we say Fred? And what about Khrushchev? Change Khrushchev to say Lesley.
You're changing history here, Anne.
I know. Gives a great sense of power. Now, let's see if the lovely computer... Right. Fred disliked Khrushchev's, oh, sorry, it hasn't done it because I have not typed it right.
But
but it doesn't matter
the
because
great
you
thing
do
is
it again and
no,
it's all
there's no
wonderful.
such thing as a
I
mistake,
haven't
really.
retyped for 5,000 words.
No, that's right. It takes the drudgery out of writing.
Yes,
and presumably
it does.
when you are a professional writer, there's a lot of drudgery involved.
Absolutely, and it really makes a difference with deadlines too, because when I'm using my little Tandy on the road, I can put the stuff down onto the acoustic coupler, right into the office computer, while my colleagues are running around queuing at the telex. I'm down in the bar. I've already finished my work.
Yeah. Going back to the drudgery point a minute, presumably you've got plenty more time to do other things now.
Just earn more money by doing more. No, and the great thing is that it will go on working for you at midnight. And
So you work at home a lot, presumably?
I work at home. It doesn't want coffee. It doesn't tell you its love life. It's a marvellous slave.
You seem to have got a sort of tailor-made system here for yourself as well. That interests me. You're
Well-
not just using View as it stands. I mean, you've got green screen.
No, on each disc, I mean, this is the format for the Daily Mail, which gives the page length and the headers, which means that you'll say Geneva at the top, page 1, Anne Lesley. At the bottom, it'll say page so-and-so, and more following. That's all automatically done for me. And all I have to do is what they call boot the disc in, and it's all sitting there ready for me to go.
Do you think you have an advantage now over your colleagues?
Oh, yes, they're all terribly jealous. At least they say they're not jealous. They see me playing around on my computer, and they come round and they sneer at me. And they say, oh, it's ridiculous, it's just showing off and everything. And then they go away, and I know that, in fact, they're groupies because they ring me. In fact, the ones who sneer most ring me about a week later and say, Anne, I wonder, could you spare a moment just to show me that thing again? And I know they go out and buy it. Changing their lives as well.
Would you call it a good investment? I mean, you've got quite a fair amount of expensive equipment here.
Well, I think actually probably the equipment that I bought paid for itself in 2 months. I simply could get more work done and enjoy my family as well. And the calluses on my fingers from typing are going.
And the fingernails are growing.
And the fingernails are growing.
Wonderful. Thanks very much for joining us, Anne.
you.
Thanks for bringing your enthusiasm. And thanks very much for allowing Fred and I, well, I think it was just Fred, actually, that fleeting moment of international power.
I think the computer objected to you being in charge of superpowers.
Back in October, the Listener magazine launched 2 competitions to test your skills as code crackers with 2 pieces of encrypted data. The challenges were set by John Clifford of Datasoft and Dick Gilbert from the Listener. The first challenge used some simple encryption techniques we covered earlier in the series. John, how would you set about solving this problem?
Well, we only use techniques as you described in the earlier programme. We do have a graphic to try and make things clearer.
That was as it was published in the Listener.
That's right. Now, let's remove the spaces. That's always a good step. Looking at the text now, we now substitute the most commonly occurring letter within that text for the letter E, the most commonly occurring letter in English. And we will do that throughout the entire text, shifting each character.
Keeping the alphabet in the same order as it was
That's
before.
right. Now,
Still looks a mess, though, doesn't it?
yes,
Quite
but
jumpy.
the number of letters in there and their frequency is beginning to look more like English. Now, if you look at the first 7 letters, you may notice that that's give, the, backwards. So let's reverse that, do the same to the second block. That's looking fine, so we'll do that to the rest of the text. Now, as you can see, that already makes sense, so let's just put the spaces back in to give the final result.
And there's the question. Give the nickname of the Apollo 11 excursion module used by Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin during their first manned lunar landing. And of course the answer was Eagle. Dick, did anybody get it?
Yes, many. We had over 100 entries which were correct with Eagle. Therefore, we had to bring in a tiebreaker. And for that, we wanted the competitors who'd solved the first part to write a telegram in 24 words using every letter of the alphabet in the correct order, bar 2, from or to somebody with a hatred of or a love of computers. And the answer, which we judged to be the winner, came from Mr. C. Banfield of London E7, who sent this telegram to William Shakespeare. Absent Bill, could discs encompass Falstaff's girth, Hamlet's indecision, jealous King Lear? Machines now offering playwrights quills, reasonable scribes, though unimpressive verse writers. Yorick.
Brilliant. Maybe Shakespeare would actually use a word processor. Well, Mr. Banfield wins an Amstrad word processing system for his achievement. The same competition wasn't so easy, though. We used Datasoft's professional encryption package to encode a secret message. The result was this jumble of numbers, which the Listener have been printing since October. And Datasoft was so confident that no one would crack it that they got together prizes worth around £8,000. John, how was this one encoded?
Again, using a similar system to that we've already seen, except this time we do not substitute the same character for its equivalent throughout the entire text. In the first case, an E may be a V. The second time an E's occurred, it may represent a P.
So every time it's completely different. That sounds very complicated. Dick, did anybody solve it?
No, we had a few dozen entries, brave people, I must say. We had some wonderful answers. One was Dorothy, another one was Babbage, one was the cat sat on the mat, and one said November for some reason, but I'm afraid none of them was the right answer.
Were they just guessing, or had they got some theory?
Well, no, one or two people actually had on the back of their entries complicated lists of numbers in which they saw some remarkable pattern to produce the answer they gave, but they were all wrong.
John, would you like to decode it for us?
Yes. Okay, we already have the software loaded. To de-encrypt, we press return. The translation's already been done. Now we can look at the plain text within the inbuilt text editor of DataTalk, like so. We'll just pull up the main window so we can see the entire text.
And there is
there's
the
the
message.
question.
The town of Yeovil in Somerset is home of a famous flying machine manufacturer. What particular type of aircraft is made in this town? And the answer, of course, is helicopter. No one got that. Did you believe anybody would get it?
We always felt it extremely unlikely. We didn't believe that anybody would have the resources and the machine time to put this type of encryption system under sufficient analysis.
Is it uncrackable, your code?
No in-cipher system is uncrackable as far as we know.
None at all. Oh, so clearly commercial encryption software isn't absolutely secure, but it's good enough to deter most hackers who don't have access to very large computers, and probably for a long time. Since no one cracked the challenge, most of the major prizes are going to be given to a charity run by the National Bureau of Handicapped Students. John and Dick, thank you very much.
Micronet 800, the Prestel-based magazine, says Acorn is to launch a new BBC microcomputer in January. Micronet claims to have been given the machine's details by an anonymous software writer who has seen and used the new micro. According to the report, the machine will use 8-bit technology, can house up to 1 megabyte of memory, will cost around £700 and will be compatible with existing 128K BBC Model B software. A spokesman for Acorn says, "We are gearing up for a major launch in January with the BBC, but I cannot give you any details before the launch." And BBC Enterprises, who license Acorn to manufacture BBC microcomputers, say they cannot comment on any machines which may or may not be in development. Meanwhile, Micronet 800 say they are confident the facts in their story are correct. High street shops report brisk business in software, but sluggish sales of home computers. Many computer companies are depending on good sales this year to ensure continued trading next. Owners of the new Amstrad word processor, the PCW8256, are discovering a shortage of the unusual disks used in the machine, with some high street shops out of stock. The £400 word processor uses 3-inch discs rather than the far more common 5¼ and 3½-inch formats. The problem is that 3-inch discs are only made by two companies, Maxell and Panasonic. Maxell say new supplies have been ordered from Japan and stocks are expected to be in the shops by Christmas. In America, a Christmas price war is underway with computer dealers cutting prices in an attempt to clear stocks. With the details, Wendy Woods reports from Silicon Valley.
Even though there are signs that the computer industry is emerging from its doldrums, Christmas 1985 is a picture of bulging warehouses of unsold goods and dramatic price slashing designed to get shoppers in the computer buying mood. Meanwhile, the holiday tradition of $500,000 staff parties is nowhere to be seen this year in Silicon Valley. Most computer company employees will get low-cost snacks, even potluck vittles, for the first time in a long time. But few are complaining. Their Christmas cheer is that they survived 1985 alive. Reporting from Silicon Valley for MicroLive, I'm Wendy Woods.
And finally, British Telecom launched a preliminary trial of its voice recognition system this week. It takes the form of a computer adventure game, but instead of a computer, you use an ordinary telephone. Instructions are given to the 20-megabyte microcomputer in BT's Martlesham Research Centre by speaking down the phone.
Repeat after me. North.
North.
South.
South.
After a newspaper published the X directory number, all lines to the game were engaged. However, it is due to go public in April.
Right, thank you, Lesley. And now, if you've often wondered what Santa looks like in his shirt sleeves, here he is, John Coll, together with a huge selection of prezzies. Right, a lot to get through here, John. Where should we start?
Right, this is a piece of speech synthesis software for the BBC Micro. We'll come to those in a moment.
Right.
This you just load into this computer, into the BBC, and then you can type a file, a word process file, and it will actually speak it out of the loudspeaker without having any special chip in the machine.
And just £10.
Yes,
Very good.
really good
Actually,
value.
we've got a tape of that speaking, so let's see what you think of it. There's that tongue twister that we used earlier in the scene. Oh, thank you kindly. Well, I think you can make it out, and among the buzzing. Now, this is a word processor program. It's from Mastertronic. It costs about £15, and it's for the Commodore 64 or the 128. It's a very simple one, but apparently it's quite adequate for its purposes. Not bad at 15 quid.
This is one of the best-selling hardware add-ons this year. It's the AMX mouse, and you can get this for the BBC computer, the Amstrad, or the Spectrum, in a price about £70 to £90. But to capitalise on that a bit and give you some extra facilities, AMX... Be quiet, cats. AMX have brought out another thing called PageMaker, and that enables you to take bits of text and move them around and generate something that looks like a newspaper. It's very much like the Macintosh software, but this one only costs £50, available for the BBC Micro.
But you do need the mouse.
You do.
Well, that's what's getting the cats excited. We'll come to you in a minute. Right, books. There are some super books here. These are great. I do like the Usborne series. They're very cheap. They're very good. They're written for children, in fact, but there's a lot of good information in there. This one starts off explaining what a word processor is all about, lots of cartoons, but by the end, there's actually a whole shopper's guide to commercial word processors.
There's a whole range of these books on different topics, and they're targeted not only at very young people, but also people who really know what they want to do, and really been edited in a very professional way. I strongly recommend those.
First rate.
Yeah. Another book, Practical Hardware Projects by Joe Telford for £9. If you want to get your soldering iron out and build things, that's really quite interesting. Artificial intelligence is really one of the buzzwords these days, and this book shows the basics of it in both senses of the word, the basic language and the fundamentals. Quite interesting. We've got a bit of not very artificial intelligence here. Just look at this thing, isn't it? Quite stunning. It looks around to find out where it is, and go on, move, that's it, and we're off.
Excellent. Artificial idiocy, but I think I can top it with this dog here. Come on, Pooch. Look at that. So
Right.
it does everything you tell it.
Now, let me put the dog amongst the cats and show you what's been making all this noise down here. Come on your marks. That's right, and we're off. And to add to that, we have the formation dancing team, or should I say the synchronised swimmers,
Yes.
which are undoubtedly near one. Oh, nice one, got his
They were
aerial.
synchronised. If you wanted a setup like this at home, John, how much is it going to cost you?
Well, the robots are snip at about £170, without skull caps for the swimming. The big cat, about £70, and the little cats, about £50. Clearly essential.
Well, the dog likes it. Of course, if you don't like that kind of din, what about making your own din with this thing, which I demonstrated earlier in the series, the Spectrum unit for the Spectrum computer. Very good value at £30, and they've just released a new kit of Latin American sounds.
Can you give us a sample of the,
excellent,
the music
isn't
on
it?
there? I believe you're rather good.
Not bad.
Fantastic. All right. Now, this is something for people like me who are completely incapable of playing these complex video games. No coordination. You plug it into either an Electron, Spectrum, Amstrad, Commodore 64 or BBC, and then turn this knob down and the game slows right down. So you can actually get the machines and
Bit
actually
of an
hit
odd
the
thing
things.
to want to do, though, isn't it?
Yes, I suppose so, but Max seems to have been doing rather well. He's got a high score of 101 credits on Elite.
Starting with 100, of course. So you can play it at normal speed, but you can actually crank the speed down. Oh, I think he's been zapped.
Come on, own up, Mac. That's been set up all afternoon.
Tough luck, Mac. Well, that, of course, was Elite, which is a very good game, I'm told. I haven't been hooked
First
myself,
rate.
but that is a version for the Spectrum, just
Right.
released at $14.95. And if you've got that sort of money to spend, well, what about this? Also for the Spectrum, it's Lord of the Rings from the same people that brought you The Hobbit. However, this one, $15.95, you get 2 tapes and the book Fellowship of the Rings, not the Wrongs, which is described on the back as the ultimate hint book. I don't know if Tolkien would have liked that, but there
Okay,
you go.
slightly smaller hints here. These little hints are only £1.99 a shot for the cassette. There's some really cheap game software available for a whole range of machines and very, very good. This is bringing the software down to the price where kids can save up for a couple of weeks and buy some stuff. It's good.
$1.99 from Mastertronic. And to give you an idea of the kind of value you get, here's a game being played. It's called The Last V8. Ah, it's not playing at the moment, it's in demo mode. There we go. We've had to put it in demo mode because nobody here could master it. We've all got two shaky hands, including the cameraman. Actually, this seems to be the year of the race game. We've got another one here, which is 3D Grand Prix for the Amstrad, which Lesley is getting absolutely first rate at. £9.95. Ah, she's crashed.
This is Mark Sura. He's about to try out the latest type of Olivetti. Mark is driving the turbocharged Formula One Olivetti Brabham car in the 1985 British Grand Prix.
An enormous crowd watching the race. The conditions are absolutely perfect. The track is dry, the sky is blue, the sun is shining.
However good the conditions, calculating car speeds which regularly touch 200 miles an hour isn't easy. But it's what motor racing is all about. So inevitably, now that cars are named after computers, car speeds are also calculated by computer.
As he goes round Stoke Corner.
Each car is fitted with a radio transmitter carried in its nose cone, which identifies it to the computer network. The signal which identifies each car is received by an aerial hidden in the finishing line, from which the computer can calculate its lap time and its position.
Right, meanwhile, Mark Sura in the Olivetti Brabham. Mark Sura, 120.901. 120.901. Nicky Dowdery, and you were saying, was looking quick, and he is second quickest now, 121.005.
Up in the timing room at Silverstone, a whole gang of personal computers has moved in. But they still keep the old-fashioned methods going, using the human eyeball to identify the car and breaking a beam on the line to time it. They work out the placings by biro. But some of the old-timers don't find the new system completely foolproof.
I've got this super sophisticated computerized monitor readout thing which gives me all the positions of the drivers and the gaps between the drivers. Now, there's just one problem of that from my point of view, and that it is inevitably one lap adrift, because it can't complete its information, assimilate everything, and play it back to me until all 26 cars, or however many are running at the time, have crossed the line.
Murray has particularly painful memories of the end of the French Grand Prix.
Piquet was winning the race, Prost was in second place, Rosberg was in third position, De Angelis was fourth, and Johansson was fifth. And that, of course, was what the readout was telling me. Now, I had to finish absolutely on the dot in terms of time. On that last lap, Rosberg passed Prost and took second place, and Johansson passed De Angelis on the line and took fourth position, as a result of which I regret to say 4 out of the top positions I gave were wrong.
And the checkered flag is waving at this point now, so to our consternation, it looks as though the British Grand Prix is being finished on the 65th lap, but whatever.
This time Murray got it right, the computer got it right, but the manual timekeepers didn't. At the end of the 66-lap race, they brought down the checkered flag 1 lap too early.
Nelson Piquet, 4th, Mark Sura, 5th.
And Mark Sura finally finished 5th, also 1 lap too early. Now I've been joined for a few punchlines, as you might say, by Michael Bywater, Deputy Editor and Computer Correspondent of Punch. Michael, you gave me one of these adventure games to try, and I must say I'm not an aficionado. Do you really enjoy them?
I can't actually answer that question right at the moment because I've got this problem here. What has happened is we're in the land of Sodom. We're actually on the dune on Elor, and we've got to get to the Mystery Lake to talk to this negotiable beetle who will give us the manic woodcutters thing. It's just like real life, really. You meet people and you shake hands and you kill them.
Real life in Punch, no doubt.
Real life in Punch. What we've got here is something which highlights the problem of these blasted games. You attack Krillin, you kill Krillin, whoever he may be, you travel north, you see the bar. What is a reasonable thing to say at that point? A reasonable thing to say at that point is buy a drink. There we have it. I don't understand buy.
I don't understand, but maybe it should be kill the drink. But every time you seem to meet something, a Krillon or a Gru or whatever it is in these games, you actually go out and kill it, stab it, knife it, providing you've oiled the knife in the blood of something you met beforehand.
It's not the blood of something. You see, what it's got to be is the drink that you find in the sack with the luncheon that Krillon has got, and then the Gru comes in and he gets the knife, but he's already got the oil from the sunken lake. You pull the...
But you like them. What's a good one
Secretly,
versus... Yes. Well, we all secretly enjoy computer games of some sort or another. Is this your favourite? I heard that adventure games were for the older people, and I thought, well, I'm an older person, I don't enjoy them. So I said, what's meant by an older person? They said somewhere between 9 and 11.
Ah, yeah, mental age, yes. Well, I'm working up there slowly. I don't know, what always strikes me as very, very strange is that you have all this magnificent technology totally at the disposal of creating a sort of sub-medieval universe. I mean, if it was all futuristic, there's one or two that are. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy is futuristic. But this is all, I mean, what is this? The legend, the 9 tasks of the unnamed one. You have to find somebody called Aravor Shape Changer. What on earth has that got to do with anything?
Do some of them get more involved in personality? Some seem to be based on books I've seen, like...
Well, the Hitchhiker one was. And
yes.
you've got restrictions. You obviously can't do what you can do in a book. But the trouble is that if you're trying to put something on a computer like the Spectrum, you're very limited by the size of the machine. It does actually require an awful lot of brain to write prose.
What other sort of games do you like, apart from the text games?
Well, some of the shoot-'em-ups are great fun, but they're sort of limited, really. I mean, once you've shot down the encroaching spaceships once or twice, you've had enough. You want to
They've gone a lot less popular recently, haven't they? I hear that games sell well if they've got a lot of good music with them. Have you encountered games with music? Do you think that's rubbish?
Yeah, the Ride of the Valkyrie as the Grus come down and get you with the drink that you didn't buy from the sack, and it's all going to be the same, yes.
Well, I did see one that I quite liked. It was called Winter Games, and there was the runner running up to the bowl, and he lit the flame, and the doves flew off, and the music played, and the flags blew in the breeze. I thought that was quite nice.
And then the computer crashes, and you've lost the game.
Or you could go down the bobsleigh and then kill one of the referees as he bobbed up out of the ice.
You've got to kill the referee before you get on. It is ludicrous, isn't it? But I think they're getting fun. They are.
I've always had a secret liking for pinball machines, and I bought a pinball construction kit for a computer, and you can actually construct your own pinball.
So that you always win.
You always win. You can
That's
make
great.
it easy as anything.
And has it got somewhere you can put a glass of beer on the top? That's vital. You have to have a user-configurable glass of beer.
Well, so far so good, but what would you imagine would be your ultimate game? What would it look like?
All the technology, laser holograms and sound and artificial sensor armor and the whole thing, it'd be a real-life simulator. And the point would be that if you got into a situation like this where you really didn't have anything more to say, what you could do is just press a little escape key, which would be located on your knee somewhere, and you'd cut somewhere else.
And you go into another life shape altogether and into another lifestyle.
Another universe, another anything, another studio, could be anything. I don't know.
And would you imagine that was full of battles, or would you think it was negotiating with editors?
World War III. No, negotiating with real people.
Again, it's a single-person game. Wouldn't you like a two-person game?
I like a 100-person game. If we could everyone, the whole universe playing this gigantic game, we'd never have to go out at all.
Michael, thank you very much.
Well, that's it for today, for this week, for this year, come to that. We're back on Friday, January the 17th with a special programme from the Which Computer Show in Birmingham.
But just before we go, as you know, MicroLive searches high and low to discover worthwhile, important uses for computer technology. And this Christmas, we've come up with a real cracker. Take it away.
Oh,
oh my goodness. Happy Christmas.
Wonderful. Happy Christmas.
Happy Christmas.
Oh.